is the same.
Well, it's there's a little bit of a battle between the standings, right? Like if Saiyan and lnguagehackr, a win here is very important for their playoff position, considering that they're both 2-2.
Yeah, they even have the same
But yes,
record.
it is amusing. Oh, there's also, of course, the Canada versus USA rivalry.
All right.
Although,
based
countries. Off of Canada's recent performance, TJ, I could barely call it a rivalry. Canada is destroying us lately with Eddie's strong performance. lnguagehackr, of course, destroying the field as well during Swiss. And not to forget Monsanto, who's been a consistent force in Hearthstone Grandmasters, although it seems like Monsanto has been a little bit less consistent than what we're used to seeing, which I'm sure he'll be able to correct soon enough. Let's go into game number 1. Hold on the Lightning Bloom and the Guardian Animals. He finds Wild Growth for Saiyan's hands, looking pretty good.
No. Different heroes as well. That's one thing to point out.
Okay.
Different druid heroes.
Versus Malfurion.
Yep. All right. So this matchup can get a little weird. The Malagos Druid Beer, there's always the potential for blowouts. If one person draws ramp and Guardian Animals, the other person doesn't. You're going to get blowouts from time to time. But when both players are drawing pretty evenly, it does become a battle over the board. And oftentimes the combo is, kind of thrown away as a win condition pretty early on. But we'll see if that's going to be the case, because lnguagehackr now has established himself as the aggressor. Ghidra might force Saiyan to play a little bit differently here, play a little bit off curve. He had plans for the overgrowth, but this Ghidra does seem like it might demand respect, because actually, no, it doesn't demand respect, because even if lnguagehackr has the overgrowth, Saiyan gets to follow this up with Guardian Animals and be able to kill this pretty much no matter what spell would come out. Especially since he knows that he doesn't have to worry about Innervate, Lightning Bloom, Guardian Animals himself, because then the Ghidra would just be small and the Spell Burst would be eaten up. So Guardian Animals will be able to answer this. He has a Twilight Runner in hand, but still the 3 beasts left in the deck. Those 3 beasts being the second Twilight Runner, Teacher's Pet, and Lake Thresher. So hopefully looking for a Lake Thresher here, so he has the 6 health and doesn't have to double trade both these in. But I think he's willing to pull these cards out of his deck and draw a little bit further with Twilight Runner.
Yeah, the Twilight Runner could give him some cards that maybe he could play this turn, but it doesn't seem like he wants to use things like his Innervate and his Crystal Power, because it's just not enough right now, and rather just use that ramp for other cards. And it wasn't exactly a nice exchange for Saiyan's side, because he did give up 10 health from that Speaker Ghidra. But a lot of times it does feel like being at 25 health doesn't feel that functionally different from, say, being at 19 against the Druid deck, where they can really burst out a lot of combo damage if they ramp up and draw a ton of cards. But we will see if that health difference does end up making an impact in this game, as Saiyan does draw a second Innervate, which is a little bit clunky here. Does have to be a little bit careful as to actually protect his life total too, because if he does, say, play Alexstrasza aggressively here, because that is one of his better tempo options, then he is opening himself up to lnguagehackr finding a way to aggressively win the game that he's maybe not accounting for. So, Saiyan has to definitely keep that in mind, because Force Warden Omu and then some kind of Malagos Swipe Moonfire combination would end the game.
Yeah.
Standard time run low.
I think Alexstrasza is probably, I don't know. He could go full tempo here.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, all right. So he ends up using the Crystal Power, playing the Alexstrasza, same amount of power on the board. lnguagehackr does have the ability to tempo out as well.
Oh, geez. Yeah, he can Malagos this, Moonfire it down, and kill it off, and then even has Germination next turn for the Malagos. He could even go something like Germination, Innervate, Overflow, or the other way around, depending on what the board state is from Saiyan, to try and find some like additional damage. And Saiyan, even though he had a great curve early on with Wild Growth into Overgrowth into Guardian Animals, this just pressure plan from lnguagehackr, just kind of playing down his biggest thing on curve and answering whatever Saiyan does, is working out for him. And this is incredibly scary going into a turn where you have absolutely no way to deal with Malagos. If he plays Twilight Runner on the board, a single swipe to the face would kill off the Twilight Runner. And with Germination picked up, he might have to take... Okay, I was going to say, with this little cards in hand, you might feel like you have to take the risk and like Germination the Twilight Runner and just really hope that there's no swipe. But...
Well, that's the thing, too. If he had played 2 Twilight Runners, maybe his swipe and Twilight Runner would have a way to end the game. But he decides instead to hold it and trying to budget out his resources in case he needs that Force Ward and Omu swing turn. Overflow definitely is not what Saiyan was hoping for. A swipe off the top from that Overflow draw should be enough for lnguagehackr to be in firm control for the rest of this game here. And a devastating 2-turn combination from lnguagehackr, who was able to get that Malagos out and now is just pushing with tempo. And Speaker Ghidra comes into the hand here for Saiyan, which can deal with this Malagos.
Yeah, it can deal with this Malagos. The question then becomes, how do you sequence this? He could go for something like Force Ward and Omu.
So many contradictions.
No, that's a little bit excessive. It's actually really awkward sequencing. It might just have to be a Speaker Ghidra and a swipe. That would clear it off, but it would lose his Ghidra. He'd be going the next turn with nothing. I was thinking like Force Ward and Omu, Germination, Speaker Ghidra, swipe. But again, that doesn't leave him with enough mana. He can go Force Ward and Omu, Speaker Ghidra, Germination the Speaker Ghidra. Nope, can't do that either, because he would lose out on the mana.
What about Force Ward and Omu, swipe, reset, Speaker Ghidra, germinate the Speaker Ghidra, and then trade in? Then you have another copy of Speaker Ghidra?
No more nice
Is that too much of an investment, though?
I think that's too much of an
throwing
investment.
away everything.
Yeah, I think he needs to hope that his draw off the top is going to be some big tempo play. But honestly, like even Guardian Animals at this point would only pull Leg Thresher, and so like he wouldn't be able to draw cards. Maybe if he draws Overflow, he can go Force Ward and Omu, Germination, then Overflow, and he'll still have 10 mana crystals available to react to whatever the Overflow draws. That's the only real play that I can see being worthwhile. And lnguagehackr just gonna, essentially tempo on Ada here. This sets up for lethal next turn with the swipe. Ooh. Oh my gosh! Okay, so the exact situation. There's only one Overflow in the deck, so it's kind of crazy. But now he'll have 10 mana active with this after this Overflow is played because of the Germination on the Omu. And fit in a hero power as well. Nice sequencing, just to be able to get back as much mana as possible. Let's see what we can get.
Ooh, no. Finds 2 Breath of Dreams, which he'd much rather have the cards of impact. Guardian Animals. Saiyan already has pulled most of his beasts out. I think it's just Thresher right now.
Just Thresher.
Ends up going for a draw here. The one card that could have gotten drawn from the Guardian Animals ends up drawing the very next turn. And yeah, it's not looking too nice here for Saiyan's position here, but at least he's ahead on board. If I'm lnguagehackr, I'm thinking about ways to really press in here. What can we really do with this nature studies? If we germinate Alexstrasza, we get our 8/8 for 4 mana. That seems really good too.
Yeah, with Malagos gone, he can feel free to kind of use this. Oh, wow. Oh, what about 2 8/8s? Holy moly. The problem becomes he doesn't deal with the Lake Thresher if he goes for double germination. And so his Alexstrasza's will be less health no matter what. He can go for like germination and then swipe here to take off the Lake Thresher to save some health on his second Alexstrasza.
Time waits for no one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's fine. You're clearly in the tempo advantage and press by removing the minions and going for the face.
Yeah.
And it is threatening a 2-turn lethal if you go face even.
Yeah.
Actually, you could still go 2-turn lethal if you kill his Thresher.
Yeah,
To
I
get
think
the
you have to
Moonfire.
kill a Thresher. I don't think you can give Saiyan that much. Well, this is a clear on the board for Saiyan. It's just expensive because he either has to take 8 or use both Moonfires. Actually, no, he can use Crystal Power. So he can swipe, attack
How
Crystal Power.
curious.
But it depends on which resource he thinks is more important because he doesn't have. Well, he still has Malagos in his deck. He doesn't have Germination or Omu.
No more
So-
niceties.
I guess the benefit of using Crystal Power is that if he does draw Malagos, it means he can immediately clear some things on the board with the double Moonfire.
Right, except lnguagehackr is about to play the Ysera Unleashed, which means he's about to have a lot of power on the board that Saiyan can't consistently clear off just with his Moonfires and Malagos.
My dream.
So he's really hoping to see nothing from Saiyan, and then it load up power onto the board. Saiyan has to hope that he draws Malagos here.
Oh,
He does.
okay. He does. The problem is lnguagehackr has Guardian Animals in hand and has exactly both Twilight Runners left in his deck as his beasts. So he's going to be able to pull a lot of portals out immediately if he wants it, assuming he doesn't draw a Twilight Runner off the top. And the Malagos by itself, while it does deal with the Ysera here, I don't even know if you want to
So
deal with
many
Ysera
contradictions.
because it's only 4 power, and with the portals in the deck, you might want to save it to deal with something else. That's a tough decision, actually. He does need to play it because he can't pass his entire turn over.
Yeah, I do feel like it's somewhat of a fool's errand to try to anticipate that you can deal with
draw.
this. Okay, that's not good for lnguagehackr.
No.
He could try to draw with the Overgrowth instead, and use that to maybe find dragons off of, or dragon dream portals from his deck. But he ends up just going for this one Twilight Runner, trying to see if he can draw 2 cards instead. Gets the dream portal immediately.
That one's good.
Makes it dread.
Oh my goodness.
2 portals. So Saiyan's like hoping that he gets his nature studies, right? To get like a swipe.
Yeah.
I think that's what he is forced to try and aim for right now. If I'm lnguagehackr, I'm also thinking about the value of trading preemptively into Malagos or just pushing the damage. Because if you do push damage, you can set up a 2-turn lethal here. If your opponent does not have the Malagos clears. Saiyan did play Malagos though, and not anything else, which makes me feel like he is up to something.
Yeah. The worst draw in his deck.
Yes. However, it is aesthetically satisfying because it is perfectly balanced on both sides. It is
wow, look at
Lightning
that
Bloom,
symmetry.
Moonfire, Guardian Animals, Moonfire, Lightning Bloom.
How curious.
A Hearthstone palindrome, if you will.
So, what's funny is that nature studies could have been lethal if he had picked up germination from nature studies.
Ah, you're right. You're right. I was thinking about like
so-
just straight up swipe, but yeah, it is also a lot of damage, and maybe he had an opportunity to do. And
Yeah.
we saw that's exactly what Language Hacker had, right? Nature Studies and picked up the second Termination.
Yeah. So, that Lightning Boom was the worst. He had Ysera Unleashed. He also had Geppetto Joy Buzz, which would have drawn Ysera Unleashed. That's kind of what he needed in this situation, outside of like the Fringe, Nature Studies, and Determination Lethal that he gave himself the opportunity for. So, there are no minions left in the deck for Geppetto, so that's just an 8-mana 6/6. But Language Hacker can go full on Temple here instead of for the 2-turn lethal. Go Germination here, then he can play both of his 5-drops, and then Moon. He's looking for portals. Okay. I was gonna say play both your 5-drops and then Moonfire and then play Geppetto. So you'd have 2 5/4s or 3 5/4s, 4/6, 6/6. That would have been pretty insane. But portals, I guess, have higher potential power. So he wants to pull some portals out of his deck. Yep, 7/5, 8/8. Another Waxadread, by the way. He's already got a candle in his deck.
Time waits for no one.
Yeah, and I think that candle, it didn't really need to be played for the second Waxadread to be able to threaten Just Saying, but it's nice insurance for Language Hacker, as right now there's no way that this board can be stopped. I don't even think Swipe would be enough to save Saiyan in this position.
No.
Overgrowth, so the last 3 cards. Geppetto Joy Buzz. Ysera Unleashed. And that's going to do it. So Saiyan ends up tapping out. Language Hacker wins the first game in this mirror match lineup. And we'll end up having that nice early Druid checked off. So only has his Hunter and his Demon Hunter left, which, you know, we'll see if they end up doing a good job. I do feel like those decks have a very nice proactive game plan against Druid, but we have seen Druid make those big comebacks in the past. So if you were to pick one class that's the weak link in this lineup in the mirror head-to-head, TJ, which class do you think it is?
Druid. So that's why I feel like that matchup was particularly important, because the Druid, I feel like, is the weak link. Now, Druid can do pretty well against Soul Demon Hunter, but not the Malagos Druid as much as, say, Survival Druid, because you don't have the ability to make these big boards that threaten lethal early on. And you just like kind of are just a little bit slower in general to get big pressure on the board, because you're more combo oriented, and the additional spells you have that could be used for removal and some more aggressive matchups don't necessarily do as much against Demon Hunter, because the biggest threat that you have from Demon Hunter is just raw damage to the base. So I do think that Druid would probably be the weak link, and Language Hacker being able to pick up a win in the mirror matchup, I feel like, is a pretty big deal as we move forward in this one. But it's time to move on. Saiyan's going to play the Soul Demon Hunter. Now, I feel like that's a pretty obvious second choice, just because of the fact that the Druid is so susceptible to the remaining 2 classes, and he's going to try and go for this matchup. So I do like this matchup for the Soul Demon Hunter, though Saiyan and Language Hacker's lists both are slightly weaker to aggressive decks than some of the other variations. They do have more expensive things in the deck, like the Metamorphosis that you saw in as one of the key cards in that graphic that we just showed, as well as Double Gladebound Adept. Those cards are not particularly useful against Face Hunter. The version that we see from like Rami or a lot of the European players with the Pen Flingers and the Altruists, that list does a little bit better against Face Hunter, because you have more ways to clear some early board states, so you don't fall too far behind by the time you get to your Shard Shatter Mystics and Blade Dance turns. But I still do like the matchup. You just have a lot of ability for raw healing with the Demon Hunter, Soul Fragment sprinkled into the decks, and a lot of ways to remove those small board states, as I mentioned. Ooh, that's a great pickup. Just to be able to make sure that he has Soul Fragments in the deck for Shard Shatter Mystic.
Yeah, I like it a lot. That Spirit Jailer also, you know, just has a way to fill out the curve, and I feel like Demon Hunter tends to do way better when they have any minion early on, so they could either clear the boards or even pressure their opponent's life total. In this case, pretty much just about how Saiyan wants to clear off this Phase Stalker. Language Hacker hoping that there's not a way for Just Saiyan to do it, but, you know, Demon Hunter has so many different tools that they can do, especially if they're on the coin. So he has Marrow Slicer, he has Soul Shear and Hero Power, he has Twin Slice. Looks like he's going to split the baby here, use one Twin Slice, use the Soul Shear and get those Soul Fragments in the deck. And he does have Sociologist Militia, which does make me want to hold on to the coin, so that way you have a way to even turn the aggression around.
Yeah. Because at a certain point, you do need to win the game, right? You can't have all this healing, but you know you will get whittled down by hero powers, and you do need to find opportunities to push damage when you can.
Right.
But this has been a great start for Saiyan. He's got a bunch of soul fragments in the deck. He already has Charge Mystic and Aldraki Warblades. He's going to go ahead and test for pack tactics here before he plays a Charge Mystic. Love the sequencing. Allows him to get a little bit of information as well. The secret spread for both players is pretty standard, where you have 2 pack tactics, 1 pressure plate, 1 freezing trap. And so since that secret is most likely to be pack tactics, pack tactics!
Pack Tactics.
He does sequence that properly to make sure that he's covering all of his bases here.
Yeah, I mean, Saiyan's just more interested in perhaps even draining Language Hacker of resources and then sticking that single Sociologist Militia threat. Although I guess it's not really a single threat because it summons a bunch of the 3/3 rushers. Language Hacker ends up going for the Lore Keeper Pokal to start guaranteeing that he draws higher quality cards instead of all of his 1-drops like he has been. There's Soul Fragment drawn here. Saiyan has the Blade Dance and the Adraki Warblades. And right now, I think he knows that it's not Pack Tactics.
So it could be
So
freezing or
it's
pressure
Freezing
plate.
Trap right, or Pressure Plate. Either way, you can test first by attacking with this Shard Shatter Mystic. Seems the Freezing Trap.
Pretty good minion to have frozen back, honestly. It's expensive, but you know sometimes you just need that little bit of extra board clear once this game goes a little later to deal with like those last pushes from the Hunter.
Right.
But this still isn't a given on how to deal with this. He could go for Aldraki Warblades plus Second Slice and a Hero Power,
Okay.
which he would take 4, but he'll back up 5, so it'd be a net gain. You could also just cash in on this Marrow Slicer first. He's got plenty of time to be able to heal his damage back up, and the more Soul Fragments he puts in his deck, the stronger the Sociologist Militia is going into the next turn, which does make a lot of sense, especially considering that neither of these players play Unleash the Hound, so there's really no punish for going wide. No Unleash the Hounds, no Explosive Trap, so...
Right, but that's why this the Sociologist was set up with those Soul Fragments as you were talking about. And saying he's okay with taking that damage because he's done a good job preserving his life. And also, he knows what's going to happen. Lord Keeper Polecat was played. I mean, that Saiyan knew about the Dragonbane that was going to be played. He knows that from the hand position that it's likely Language Hacker has just more damage. And that's what he's hoping this Aldraki Warblade can make the difference here.
Let me work my magic.
The thing is, Language Hacker has 2 kill commands already. His next draw is going to be the other Eagle Horn Bow. And Saiyan does have some life gain here. And he's going to use his Blade Dance just to be aggressive right back. Doesn't want to worry about any kind of damage. Doesn't want to have to worry about trading. He wants to race his opponent and pushes a very solid 16 this turn. Language Hacker with 2 quick kill commands on himself, recognizing that it was inevitable for him to lose, given that he knew his next draw was Eagle Horn Bow. And that is Demon Hunter versus the Face Hunter. in a nutshell, if the Demon Hunter can get enough stabilization early, it'll have the ability to race and use lifesteal to get back into the game. But Hunter is so good at pushing out that damage that if Saiyan was just a little bit too slow or didn't have enough pressure to race him, that he would be able to use his Eagle Horn bows over the course of turns and whittle down Saiyan's life anyways. If Saiyan was just using a Draki Warblade and not really pressuring with significant damage on the board, that still might have been Language Hacker's game.
Yeah, it can get pretty close towards the end, and you do need like some sequence of draws to be able to stop the aggression. But honestly, Language Hacker, while he did have a little bit of a slow start, it was a reasonable start given the matchup, because you do want to be playing like bigger things early, because if you play like small things early and then big things later, you're kind of playing into what Demon Hunter wants. They want to use their Shard Shatter Mystics early and then their Blade Dances later. But because of Saiyan's ability to react with like the Twin Slice to kill the Phase Stalker, there was no snowball potential for Language Hacker, and that allowed Saiyan to stabilize just enough. But we'll see going into this next one. Language Hacker just going to queue up the Face Hunter once again. I imagine Saiyan's going to do the same thing to play a mirror matchup, unless he wants to play Malagos Druid to try and maybe push through that win against... Oh, okay. Yeah, he's just going to try and play Malagos Druid first of all. The deck does have some healing in the form of Crystal Power and the Overflow. But if you get off to a slow start as Malagos Druid, it can be pretty tough to find the time to get enough mana crystals to try and fight back against a quick start from the Face Hunter. So this matchup does make me slightly uncomfortable from the Malagos Druid's perspective.
Okay, well, maybe Saiyan can have a way to fend off that early aggression. Language Hacker keeping his Scavenger Ingenuity. Wants to have that early ramp of damage onto his minion, maybe land it on double Wolkentinker or find the other Face Stalker. Ooh, 2 Scavenger's Ingenuity in the opening hand here for the Hacker. Meanwhile, Saiyan has Breath of Dreams with Ysarian in hand. So he actually does have a pretty solid opening hand. Can ramp on turn 1. To which case, we don't see him in his cam right now. I think we were told that his PC's overheating, but I imagine Language Hacker is clapping right now, DJ.
Ooh, it's Phase Stalker. I feel like that's pretty important because of the tour guide setup.
Yes, particularly because of the threat of Freezing Trap. So if Language Hacker has his Phase Stalker pull out a Freezing Trap, that is... bad news, Bears.
Yeah. Even, like, Pack Tactics could be pretty decent in this instance, because if Saiyan attacks in with the Twilight Runner, and Pack Tactics is the secret that's pulled, he still gets another Phase Stalker to use for the next turn. Because Saiyan only has 4 mana available, it's likely he can't find removal, unless that Nature Studies comes up pretty big. Oh.
Oh,
it's Pack Tactics! Okay.
Pack Tactics!
I think that's better for Saiyan, just because the Freezing Trap would have meant he doesn't really do anything this turn unless he wants to Lightning Plume out the Twilight Runner again. Actually, no, it wouldn't even work, because it would cost too much. Yeah, so... And doesn't find a way to deal with the Phase Stalker on the board. So... He does have Lightning Bloom plus some big stuff in hand, but those are not the cards you want. You want to be able to have things to fight for board, Guardian Animals being the big one. In this case, both of those options are defensive, Hidden Oasis and Germination, but 12 healing, while it buys you time, it's incredibly expensive, and it doesn't deal with the problem of, well, what if there's just a board on the other side? Sure, you can heal for 12, but if you're not answering the board, you could just take that 12 damage right back, and you would have spent most of your turn doing that. So, does go for that option though. I think it is more flexible than Germination in the long run. So, yeah, I think Imprisoned Felmaw makes yeah, maybe makes more sense there.
Yeah, I think that language hacker is very cautiously approaching like what Saiyan could be doing. Like if he lightning bloomed out a guardian animals now that nature studies was played. So I think hedging here is fine. The 6/6 off of the hidden oasis is also totally okay, but
How
pressure plate is now so
curious.
scary as you were talking about, and um, I think Saiyan might have to go for the risk. I think you go for the 6/6 and hope that it's another pack tactics.
It's freezing.
Okay. He doesn't know that, though, 100%. He has a strong inclination that it might be, which is good, because he has a way to actually activate that freezing trap through the Speaker Gidra, and it won't be too damaging for his board state, although it does cost him 3 mana. I have to imagine that he's probably going to be leaning more towards his Overflow next turn. We shall see. This might be the longest I've seen the Face Stalker be able to survive, pulling out all 4 of their secrets.
Yeah.
Another opportunity to ramp here. Okay, so if you Speaker Gidra attack, it's gonna freezing trap. And then you're able to attack into the Face Stalker. Oh, you don't have enough mana to play the Speaker Gidra again. Unless you want to activate the pressure plate through Lightning Bloom and then overload for your following turn, which doesn't seem ideal. So I think Saiyan's just going to activate this freezing trap. Trade. I think if he sees Pack Tactics as well, that'll influence his trade, but otherwise he can just hero power this 1/1 down.
Yeah, I think you hero power 1/1, trade over the Face Stalker, and don't activate the pressure plate because this Imprisoned Felmel could go into the Hidden Oasis, and then you get maximum value off of it. Ended up being pretty huge, and honestly, kind of an awkward sequence for the secrets for Language Hacker, where if you had pressure plate into freezing, that would have been better. Yeah, but no secrets left in the deck for Language Hacker, which means this Face Stalker, while it is a 4/5, doesn't have the extra effect. And this is starting to become a little bit tougher. I kind of want to just go for maximum pressure here. Eagle Horn Bow down the Hidden Oasis, play Face Stalker, and play the Dwarven Sharpshooter.
Interesting. I was thinking something similar, but maybe just play the Dwarven Sharpshooter and hero power the Lake Thresher. Or sorry, hero power I skipped a step. Hero power down the Hidden Oasis. So that way, if your opponent has Lake Thresher, it's not nearly as devastating. I guess it doesn't matter though, right? Because you would be able to attack the Dwarven Sharpshooter. So
he also has a pressure plate up. So like I kind of wanted to go all in on pressure there, because it means that you have protection from guardian animals, or at least some protection from guardian animals with the pressure plate. So if he does play guardian animals, which is worst case scenario, 1 dies and then he gets to attack 1 in. And maybe that's not enough, but you put the Imprisoned Felmaw in the middle, and so even if the Lake Thresher is the one that survives, it still means that you're getting to attack for more damage next turn, because the Face Stalker would be alive, so you get to attack for 7, which is more like net damage.
No more niceties.
yeah, that makes sense too. Either way, Saiyans now in full survival mode, swiping, healing. Language Hacker has the Dragon Bane to really get back in there, as it'll deal 7 damage with its hero power. Hesitate for half a second because he did pick up the Voracious Reader, but I have to imagine this is way more appetizing. Just to put Druid down to the single digits. Well, not going to swing, obviously, because he wants the potential extra charges off that Eagle Horn Bow. So now, if you're saying, what do you do? How do you survive here? Is there a way you can survive knowing that it's pressure plate?
Swipe and then Speaker Gidra and trade off both minions?
Man, that does not feel good, but I think that is exactly what he needs to do in order to stabilize. I can't really think of a better play. I think Overflow is asking for trouble. I think Ysera is asking for trouble, and leaving up that Dragon Bane is going to undo a lot of that progress. And unless you're hoping that your opponent will miss their hero power and also miss any damage from hand.
Sands of time run low.
He could like overflow and then look for either crystal power or
No more niceties.
Moonfire to be able to kill it off and get the mana out of the way for overflow this turn, but I think that Dragon Bane is just too threatening if you don't hit it. Now even more reload from lnguagehackr. I think you do want to weave in a hero power here. But maybe he just wants maximum draw, but whether or not to play that second Voracious Reader is... Like, you'd have one extra power on board and you draw one extra card. Actually, no. I think Voracious Reader is better, because the one extra card draw could make up the damage that you'd miss from hero power, and also one extra attack. The hero power would only be one extra damage over the course of 2 turns. And you get an extra card, so it's whether or not that extra card can make up the damage, which I think it does. He has a lot of direct damage still left in his deck. And because he's drawing 3 cards, I imagine we're also going to be seeing an attack from the Eaglehorn Bow, in case he draws the second one and can use that for damage going to the next turn.
I like it. I like it a lot, and I do think that this is adding a ton of pressure to Saiyan to try and remove both of them. Is there any world where like not swinging ends up being exactly what he needs to be doing here? And it looks like he does agree with the idea that he needs to hold on to this charge somehow.
Yeah, it makes sense, because if Saiyan wants a reasonable chance to come back in the game, he has to get rid of one of these secrets. And so that means lnguagehackr is going to have an extra charge of the Eaglehorn Bow anyway. And he had 14 cards left in deck, only one of them being Eaglehorn Bow, so it was about like a 1 in 4 ish to draw the Eaglehorn Bow with those 4 draws. 1 in 3, actually. 2, 1, 3, 1, and 4. So it's not like super likely. So I don't mind the no attack there. And doesn't pick up any direct damage, but picks up a bunch of cards that he can dump and use to refill with the Voracious Readers on board that aren't going anywhere. And it just doesn't feel like Saiyan has a good opportunity to come back in this game, because he doesn't have Force Warden Omu. His Alexstrasza is in hand, which means he can't go for a swing with like Geppetto picking up a 1-mana Alexstrasza. Yeah, Saiyan just gonna concede.
Yeah, there's too much damage, too much pressure coming out from this Hunter deck, and you can see that lnguagehackr in general. He was just pretty consistent with his damage output, and that's what the Hunter's able to do. So while it's not necessarily our T-Mobile deck spotlighted exactly, you can see why that Face Hunter is definitely a deck to be feared once it starts getting rolling. And we mentioned how Druid might be that vulnerable class, and it's looking like it is. Saiyan has lost 2 games with this Druid, now has to beat Demon Hunter, which might be a matchup that is more winnable than the Face Hunter in my opinion, because they give you a little bit more time, so you could theoretically get things like Overgrowth and not feel nearly as bad for playing it. But this Demon Hunter is also still so good at making the punishments feel extra hard with all their burst combinations, highlighted by the fact that lnguagehackr has a little bit extra damage through Metamorphosis that not every Demon Hunter has in their deck right now.
Yeah, which does make the matchup slightly weaker against Face Hunter, which is still left for Saiyan. It does make it stronger against Malagos Druid, because you just have extra burn. So we are going to see the same matchup that we saw earlier on, but just flip-flop. Now it's going to be Saiyan on the Face Hunter, and lnguagehackr on the Soul Demon Hunter. So Saiyan did have a great start in this matchup, flip-flopped. And like I said, because of the tech inclusions, because of the inclusion of like Laybound Adept and Metamorphosis, it does make the matchup slightly weaker. But I mean, with that hand, already Spear Jail or Shard Shatter Mystic for lnguagehackr, I can imagine he's going to keep those. I don't know about the Chaos Strike. It does give you ways to deal with some of the early game minions. It gives you on the coin. It gives you an answer for Face Stalker with coin hero power. It gives you an answer to Intrepid Initiate, which can be really important because that damage can snowball. So keeps one and finds a very good hand. The only thing this is really missing is weapons. Notably the Aldraki Warblades, but I'll take it. That's a great start for lnguagehackr.
Very much so. lnguagehackr has that Spirit Jailer on 1. I mean, and we saw how impactful those kind of small things were in the opposite direction when Saiyan was one playing the Demon Hunter against lnguagehackr's Face Hunter. So Saiyan was really hoping for an opportunity to drop his Face Stalker and hero power with that tour guide and see what he gets off of that secret. Looking for most likely Pack Tactics just to get the tempo going. I don't think Freezing Trap is particularly very impactful in here, and obviously Pressure Plate is not a big deal if it shoots down your Spirit Jailer, but still annoying for lnguagehackr. Okay, so we see no Freezing Trap. lnguagehackr is
Pressure
use
Plate.
the Twin Slice. And not going to sweat too much here. Saiyan does have Voracious Reader, which is really nice for him to keep drawing low curve cards. Finds the Imprisoned Felmaw, which looks really appetizing here. The Initiate with the Adorable Infestation was great if you picked up a 1-mana play, but I think when you have this Felmaw, the earlier you play it, you can play it, the better.
Job's done.
Yep. Just because you want that activation, you want to be able to react to the damage, and just put the 5 more on board earlier, so that way your opponent has to deal with it. So, oh my gosh,
Jeez.
Both Soul Demon Hunter games have been like the textbook ideal draws against Face Hunter, like really showing why this matchup can be quite bad for Face Hunter with these draws. Now, obviously, you do have to, find ways to fit all that in and sequence it properly and not fall behind on board. But lnguagehackr's been given all the tools to do so. He just needs to not fall behind. And this is kind of tough because it's only in Intrepid Initiate, which doesn't seem like it would be that potent of a threat, but it could ramp up, especially with, say the Adorable Infestation that's in hand, because it gives it +3 attack. All right, well, can't dump the hand
Sure.
entirely.
Why not? Oh yeah, because the Adorable Infestation 1/1.
Yeah.
Right. It's still pretty good though.
Yep.
Probably Tour Guide, just to weave in more hero powers, I think.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Here for the tour?
He's likely to draw something, well, not likely to draw, but could draw something that could benefit from having a 0-mana hero power next turn, like Face Stalker, Dragonbane, Dwarven Sharpshooter to an extent, though usually not as important against Demon Hunter because they don't play too many minions. And Kill Command, Pack Tactics.
Pack Tactics. I mean, this does feel like lnguagehackr's got all of this check, though, in the form of that Shard Shatter Mystic, Plural, can take out that Voracious Reader. I guess the downside is that is his second charge of the Warblades.
Yeah. He did net some healing from it, though. It's not like it was well, I guess it's never really wasted, but sometimes like you have to attack it at things and it honestly feels like it's wasted, but actually, I don't know. He has Chaos Strike in hand. He has Second Slice in hand. Like, he has ways to continue buffing that. Maybe you take the 2 damage and just make up for it going into the next turn. But it does, like, pigeonhole you into attacking, and maybe that's not something that he wants to do.
Yeah, I think that this Voracious Reader, if you don't kill it, has a lot of opportunity to punish you.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, the lifesteal is really important, but you do feel like with 2 minions that the Felmaw is likely to not hit a target that Saiyan wants. And it looks like he hits the Spirit Jailer. Saiyan doesn't look like he's going to be able to capitalize on that Felmaw pushing face damage here. Kill command. Hack tactics. And lnguagehackr has the other Shard Shatter Mystic, but if he wants to activate Pack Tactics to get the full value of the clear, he does need to attack into it. So he plays the Shard Shatter Mystic just to be safe. And I guess from here, he doesn't have to worry about pressure play, so he can coin out this Mana Feeder Panthara.
And still a pretty good hand. Got a lot of ways to fight for board still. Got some card draw in the form of Chaos Strike. And Saiyan's kind of gassed out a little bit. You know, every time you have to start throwing hero powers to, you know, kind of try to get back ahead on board, that's usually a recipe for disaster, especially with the hand that's so empty at the moment.
Yes, it is not looking good right now. This feels very much like Saiyan is running out of gas, and that's why the Versus Reader kill was, I think, important.
Yeah.
lnguagehackr knows exactly what to play around here. Pack Tactics. Not want to activate it unnecessarily. Okay, Kane just coming down and racing, and initiating Saiyan to try to out-damage him. Saiyan picks up the Lore Keeper Polkelt. Okay. So the quality of his draws will be higher.
Yeah.
And he should be able to stabilize a little bit with the damage that he has, the Eco Horn Bows. So he has Kill Command in hand. And maybe has an opportunity to push out a little bit more damage. But I feel like in the long run, his ability to race is severely hampered at the moment. I guess his next draw is Dragonbane as well, so he has to account for that. If he does play the Lord Keeper here.
Yeah, it seems like a similar situation that lnguagehackr was in the reverse of this series, where his damage, his pressure got stalled out a lot, and then he just wasn't able to, despite lurking for full Kelt, he wasn't able to find the additional damage that he needed to end the game. But I don't think Saiyan really has a choice here. He needs minions on board. At the very least, this could force out a trade, which is active, and you know, maybe make lnguagehackr have a turn where he's not developing too much. But Blade Dance, that allows him to push damage and deal with the board. The double whammy.
Yeah. Blade Dance. Okay, doesn't find anything playable off that first Chaos Strike. And a Soul Shear as well. This is looking very good. lnguagehackr doesn't have that lifesteal, but he's still going to have that ability to deal with the board. I guess the question is, what does he want to do with his remaining mana? He could Hero Power. He could try Second Slicing to try to push that Skull Gul'dan to the other side. All right, now it's on the far right, but if you can get into Outcast position by using Second Slice and Blade Dance here, maybe he's going to be in a position to optimize further. Right now, it just feels like lnguagehackr is very much in the driver's seat. He is extremely likely to win this game, but thinking about even the smallest of margins, how can he possibly lose? Dragonbane is one of Saiyan's last-ditch efforts to try to find a way back into this game. Dragonbane hits probably the least ideal target here for Saiyan.
Yeah. Oh, wow. 6, 9, 10. Not quite lethal damage.
Yeah, it's close. Maybe lnguagehackr can even draw cards this turn. He can Second Slice, Consume Magic, then Skull of Gul'dan. He can also just push damage and see. Saiyan can't really generate 21 easily, so.
Yeah, 21's probably a little out of range.
Metamorphosis. Oh my gosh. Very close to lethal already. Guaranteed lethal next turn. Saiyan is down and out in the series. lnguagehackr going to win 3-1. We know that Saiyan's next draw is going to be Eagle Horn Bow. And that should do it here. And you can take a look at the Demon Hunter and just why it's sturdy even against aggressive decks. It's good at pressuring aggressively. It's good versus aggro decks. I mean, this Demon Hunter feels like it's extremely versatile right now in the current metagame, which is why some people peg it as one of the top classes currently in Hearthstone.
Yeah, that's why we're seeing a rise in popularity of decks that can beat it consistently. So that's one of the big things about it. So I've definitely liked to see the Libran Paladins to come and challenge it, and just looking at kind of how that series panned out after game one just goes to show you like how important the Malagos Druid Mirror ended up being in the series, because it let lnguagehackr have more good matchups and a better matchup spread because his Malagos Druid wasn't super vulnerable. Like Zayn ended up losing the Face Hunter match against Malagos Druid, and you can kind of see why the series ended up the way it did, and why both players just queue Malagos Druid game one to try and sneak in a win to make the series go smoother. But a nice pickup from lnguagehackr, and it means he pulls ahead to a positive record